The real stories of the Australian Yowie. True stories with no lies. The Australian Yowie hunters, YouTube stories direct from personal experiences. The Yowie is real. It lives in the fifth dimension. It hunts and baths within the fourth dimension, our dimension. Living in a place beyond a place out of human access. They are thought to be a variety of primitive primates that survive in the wilds of wilderness, surpassing world cataclysms by staying deep within the naked forest and not only living but thriving. Between the mediums that still eludes humans, dimensions and barriers of colliding windows, these Yowie beings somehow easily access the worlds between worlds, visible for one moment then gone. After any confrontation they simply disappear, surviving by stepping through another window into a safer dimension that humans are yet to comprehend. A stage of evolution set a different path, the path to survive, a path of isolation stepping between dimensions. A creature has evolved or is evolving, rare in change, a beast-like being, mixed with the features of man, and Neanderthal or lost species or aliens living the isolation of the bushlands, a lost family of human that de-evolved, no one really knows because they still elude any human recognition. Most report consist of a really bad smell emanating from the beast. The smell so bad your lungs fill up with an intoxicating stench, shocking the body into fight or flight mode. Some report just being frozen on the spot. The musk potent with a death-like pungent smell. Almost all witnesses state the being walked upright, until noticed, either standing still and blending with the trees. Others report it swats down hiding within the shrubs, but scariest of all is its screams, followed by it chasing you the intruder. It jumps to the ground like a four-legged spider running towards you with a crushing intensity. As always, its size is indescribable, its mass larger than any man. The silhouette of the being takes up the moon's light. People diapering in the forest or living to tell a story that so many others have told, all stories with overwhelming coincidental patterns and definition meeting a similar end. The Yowie hunters of Australia have begun to document the accounts of everyday Australians, whom come forward with their experiences. To further describe what is common between each shaking nervous voice, the being has been reported in many accounts of red-like hair, long thick sometimes black, glowing eyes that seem to soak up any light, no neck, no ears, solid, a massive mass, with a low brow, a flat nose. Some seen by humans might look like children and may act like it too, a childlike being, just wanting to play in the sun and river waters, the parentals ready scare away the dangerous human, scaring you off with the most engulfing noise, a noise that bellows from its chest, just like a whale's call, but the engulfing echo is on land. The trembling sound shocks you with vibration, an ear-piercing intensity easily has you in reaction mode of fight or flight as the being then stalking you, coming ever so closer to you, the beastie being pushing trees aside like toothpicks. Being, in protective for defense, is the only time it makes a noise, otherwise it travels without sound. For such a massive beast nothing is heard on most interactions, all the forest falling to the silence before, during or after. For a moment all the sound is sucked away, as your ears listen for the breaking of a twig, the twitch of a bird, or the scuff in the rough foliage of something moving on the forest floor. Your heart pounding, questioning as to what you just saw, curiosity, fear, wonder of the beast-like being. My admiration goes out for those coming forward for their story to be told. I am a long-time listener, however, I am yet to experience the Yowie encounter in real life. Not sure what I'd do if I did just as many others. I empathize and I am truly glad you are alive and survived. Thank you all that have had the courage to share your story of this close encounter, a close encounter with such an alluring being that still has no formal record, except for the Yowie Hunter of Australia on YouTube and by web. Please support and share their information. Even I myself am writing this as a fan. Thank you so much. Well done on such great documentation, full of inspiration and celebration of our great land. This is Australia. The Yowie is real. Your fan. Ryan Dylan Brassington, February 5th, 22.
Presented by Consciously Evolving Enterprises. As always, please like, subscribe, do whatever you kids do these days. Welcome back to another episode of Consciously Evolving Enterprises. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Ryan Dylan Brassington. Today we're doing a podcast interview with my great father. We were talking about Yowies earlier, and I really wanted to get his Yowie experience recorded to share with you guys, because I think any Yowie experience is an amazing one, as the being itself still eludes us, and yeah, any story to capture is fantastic. As we know in Australia, there's many of stories, but yet the beast, the being, whatever you'd like to call it, goes unrecognised and unrecorded in our history. So, Dad, you were telling me before about your Yowie experience. I'm pretty excited to hear it, but I'm going to stay quiet while you tell the story just from the beginning. So take it from the top.
Me and me mates, there was at least, 5 of us at a time. Me, my brother, and 3 mates. And we'd always go up the Blue Mountains at least once, a month. Maybe even more if we could of a weekend. Just to get away from Mount Druitt, up to the Blue Mountains, to Jelly Bean Pearl, up to Glenbrook, get off the train, go through the bush, down to where we knew at Jelly Bean Pearl where there was a big cave. And we used to camp in the cave, and all the time we'd catch stuff down the river and that, like on the lines and leave them out of the night and get eels, and geez, it used to taste good, the stuff. But one night we were really bored and we were around the fireplace thinking, what will we do? And it's a full moon and it's so nice and beautiful, and we set out the lines and we had everything ready and done, and we'd eaten dinner. Nice. And we thought, we'll grab the torches and go for it. And we thought, that's right, like there's a spot called Eureka, like a kilometre or so just down the river and over the causeway and down into this like open bushland that they've cut for the scouts and the cubs and that. And we thought, we'll go down and we'll rev them up, we'll scare them or something with the torches, Yeah. We're only 15, we're only mucking around. And the boys went down there and there was no one there. There was no one in the big clearing. They weren't there that weekend. Anyhow, we decided, we'll go back, And the full moon was really bright, shining, real bright. And the boys realised on the way back, they were walking through this long grass, and they realised they had leeches all over them. Up and down their legs, on their knackers, everywhere. Fair dinkum. Eyelids, the works. and I hardly had any. I had a few on my leg, but I rubbed them off really hard and fast. Yeah. And I'm running back to camp so I could get some salt for the boys so they could get them off quicker, Anyways, while I'm running in the full moon, I looked over to the right-hand side of the river, and there was a Yowie squatting down, getting a drink. And he didn't see me at first, because he was squatting down getting his drink. But he raised his big hand up, and all this water's dripping down out of it, and his eyes looked up, and they spotted me. And when he spotted me, he stood up, and he was about fucking 8 foot tall. Yep. And I started to shake all over him. My hair stood on end, And I don't know if I screamed, but it didn't come out. It honestly didn't come out of my mouth. All right, and like he went up the side of the embankment, screaming himself this real loud. It wasn't. It was more. It was a scream of a frightened sort of yell, you know, and he was banging these saplings in the trees. So it sounded like they were getting knocked over. Yeah. It was incredible, and you could honestly hear him running uphill, like up the side of the embankment, by the way the footsteps were thumping on the ground, like kabang, 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 and the trees were banging in between the screams. Like, it was frightening, right? And I just kept on running to get the salt. that's what I focused on. And on the way back, I thought, is he going to be there looking for me or not? But I just focused on getting back to the boys and didn't worry about him and let him go his way, and I went my way, and that was it. I helped the boys out, and I told them the story. I don't know if they believe me. I'm pretty sure they did, because their eyes were pretty wide and, you know, everything, but it was an experience that I don't think anyone else has had in their life, or no one else is going to have, but it was the closest that I've ever got to a yowie, and it was a true thing.
Yeah, so bringing you back to the water, when you first seen the yowie there, drinking from the water stream itself.
He was red. He was red hair.
So,
he had red hair.
He had red hair.
Yeah, it was like a red, more red than brown. Like, but he did look part ape, you know, and he was used. He was humongous, and he was muscly too. He looked, he looked like he'd been on steroids.
Yeah. And you said he looked at you. You looked.
He looked straight in my eye. Yeah, like, he could see the white of my eyes, and I could see the white of his eyes.
Yep, so you could see white.
And you know what? And the people that have drawn pictures of him are actually pretty accurate. You know, a lot of them. Yeah.
I'll show you some
they
pictures
really
after
are.
this.
They really are,
So looking at his head, Dad, could you see any ears?
Yeah, I did. But they were more human than anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with the general shape of the head.
And it was like he had a goatee.
Yep.
As well, yeah.
So for like how around the mouth. Yep, and down.
Yeah, he would be like a wild bushman, but a half ape.
Yep, all right.
Yeah.
All right. And red hair.
Yeah, the hair would cover the whole body.
The whole
body, except sort of like the knuckles, like when he was drinking it. It was a hairy hand, but the palm of it wasn't.
Yeah.
The palm of it wasn't. There was no hair there.
Yeah, so describe the hands to me, because it sounds like
it was like an ape would be getting a drink. It was the same as that. It was just like it cupped its hand and was getting a big guzzle out of it, gulp, 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 like that. Like that, really hooking into it, like that, and it's just stripping, like it was just like an animal drinking, any animal drink.
And it sounds like the sound of the water has masked you approaching while that water's been drooling from his hands. And that's why you've got him by surprise.
I think that's what caught me attention, was because he was getting a drink, and it was the sound of the water, because the where we was, there was no little trickles of water falling. That it was pretty flat and smooth and everything, you know.
And when you
I know every part of that river, and like, you know where the noisy parts are. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So when you guys are locked eyes and you're looking at each other's eyes, what was your thoughts then? What went through your head, if you can remember?
My thought was, you really are real. You do exist.
That's cool.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah, you're real, you know. And all I thought of the old Aboriginal people that must have seen him over the years. Like, no wonder it's true. And there's another creature, and the bunyip, its name is, and it lives near Billabongs. And that's pretty much real true. I haven't seen one of them, but they reckon the bunyip, the old Aboriginal people reckon the bunyip too. So beware of the bunyip, because the bunyips are very evil. It's a lot worse. It's a lot worse than what the yowie is more scared of us, but the bunyip's not. The bunyip actually kidnap people and takes them underground into a cave.
Yeah, so before with your one, you ran up the hill. You mentioned to me earlier.
Yeah, he ran up the hill, I ran up to the left. He ran up like sort of to the right, up an embankment.
Yeah. So how old do you think the
I reckon like just past a teenager, like, around 20, early 20 or early or late teens, yeah.
And could you tell whether it was male or female, or did it really stand out as one or the other to you?
No, I couldn't, because of the way that it was having a drink and the way it was squatted and the way that it jumped up and left. I didn't see nothing of its private parts.
Yeah.
No, it actually, when it stood up and it looked at me eye to eye, it didn't have tits. It was a bloke, but I didn't look down to see if it had nuts or not. I know that.
Yeah.
I was too shocked, I think, to look,
and
or to remember.
Reports,
probably if the swim put me under, I'd say, it was a bloke, like I'd remember looking and seeing
this is hanging in all the reports. They don't
yeah.
often talk about genitalia. It's what they looked at in the face, in the body.
Just the eyes. I can remember the whites of the eyes,
And you said it's as it stood up on the shoreline before it took off. You're across the shoreline from it. How, you said about 8 foot earlier, so...
I know, I reckon the river across from us, from each other, it'd be at least 15 feet.
Yeah, and how tall in size do you reckon?
And I don't think metres, but 15 feet. He'd be about 8 foot, which is, I don't know what metres, but about 8 foot to me,
So, humongous.
It was over 7 foot,
And you're saying the body size...
big muscles, shoulders, like on steroids,
Wow.
It was like on steroids,
So, and then it's taken off uphill. Was the actual stomps and the movement of the feet as it's gone up that hill?
And hitting banging trees with his forearm. That's what it sounded like.
All the time.
It sort of looked that way to me when it was running off, that it was banging trees with its forearms,
And were they large?
But it was screaming the whole time.
Yeah, and so as it's screaming, and
the steps were large.
Lunges going up.
They were humongous lunges, That's what was a bit scary about it, you know.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Dad. Really appreciate it. Hey,
that's all right,
very cool. And I'll make sure I share, link, subscribe, and pass it on.
No, all good.
All right, cheers. Please love, subscribe, do whatever you kids do these days.